Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast.
Tomorrow is opening day.
This morning, didn't have a great hunt. Deer didn't move like usual.
We just got set up in the middle of this bedding thicket. Saving the spot from the rut. It's a nice, I think it's a nice buck.
Boom! Hits a 170.
That was money. I think he's down right over there, maybe 10 yards.
Whitetail Legacy Podcast, bringing you back to the hunt and leaving a legacy.
That OG real dream. All right, we got CD Kunzie on the line. This guy is dropping studs in Iowa, full of knowledge at a young age, and just super excited to be able to talk to this guy, create a friendship. We're going to go over some stories and some bucks that he has killed throughout the last 2 years and why he thinks he's successful on these deer. This kid's putting a lot of work in, a lot of time in stand, a lot of land management. So hope you guys enjoy. We'll get through our partners real quick. You start with a title sponsor, the VIP Veteran Broadhead. If you guys are at ATA show, make sure and come by and check us out. We're going to be at the VIP booth with Matt and Cindy, talking deer hunting, having fun, and telling you guys about this great broadhead. We hope to see you there, and we can make a connection, get some phone numbers, and share the hunting season together. Get the VIP Veteran Broadhead shout out.
All right, so this week's VIP Veteran Broadhead shout out. We had a little mix up while we are actually recording this, so recording this here post-edit, so it might sound a little different than the rest of the show. Doing this VIP shout-out is something that is very important to Cody and I, and, we want to be sure that we get it right. So we're going to fix it here, and we're going to send it. So this week's VIP Veteran Broadhead shout-out is a little different. It's not necessarily such one person. This week we have a group of guys that are running a page called American Veteran Outdoors. If you guys haven't heard, there's a 8-year-old boy named Jace. He was involved in a vehicle accident, leaving him paralyzed from the waist down. He is from Arkansas, and he had all his hunting gear stolen, and these guys at American Veterans Outdoors want to provide him an opportunity to have the same resources as we all do to get out there and hunt and enjoy God's creation. So they have set up a GoFundMe page for Jace on Facebook. So be sure to give them guys a like there at American Veteran Outdoors, and they got a link there for the GoFundMe page for Jace. So that's one of the guys that's on that is David Cagle. We had him as a VIP shout-out earlier, so we can't thank David and all his friends for setting that up and doing that.
I'm going to get into ECW calls. He put a post out a while back where it started with a block of wood and then ended up with a call. I was like, man, that was sweet when you go through the processes of how he actually does it, how much work he's putting in. I mean, They're starting out with a block of wood. It just blows me away that it's all one piece handmade, so by a veteran. So when you look at something, you think, well, that's a couple pieces put together. That's a block of wood. He's glued the different pieces together and then milled it down to
put it on the lathe and just spent, a few hours
getting it perfect.
Yep.
So get into scentlock.
We're kind of everywhere with scentlock right now,
Yeah.
We picked up this flyer, kind of reading here and there on it. So this week we're going to hit on where do odors come from. There's 3 pillars of odor. There's bacterial, metabolic, and ambient. Bacterial odors come from bacteria on your skin as produced as a byproduct by metabolizing as the nutrients they receive from your body in order to sustain life.
I think you should just start with one. That was a lot. Yeah.
Wow.
One at a time.
Wow, there's a lot of big words in that one.
Yeah.
So
break it down.
Bacterial. They're produced by bacteria on your skin as a byproduct by Man, dude, that word is killing me. metabolizing the nutrients they receive from your body in order to sustain life. So they live on your skin.
Wow. So that spray that you're putting on the washing, you're killing the bacteria on your skin to get rid of the odor.
You need to start with showering. You need to hit the field spray and the odor
there's different sets of field spray. There's the field spray, the antibacterial and the microbial. So the preventable odor and the bacterial killing odor or spray. It gets complex when you break it down like that.
We're trying to get next level on it, guys, but it's just going to take a minute for us to get it out to you.
All right. Talk about Ingram's outdoor obsession. If you guys got a buck laying around that you shot this year or last year and he's just sitting out in the garage and you just want to get a Euro mount done, $100 for a beetlework, top-of-the-line European mount. And you can really showcase that buck and real clean work, real nice. Get him inside and let you tell the story for $100. I think that's worth it all day. All right, guys, we hope you enjoy CD's episode. I really did. I'm excited to follow this guy and see what he does in the future. He's already got some stellar bucks down, so I can only imagine what the future has in store for him. So hope you guys enjoy. All right, we got CD Kunzie on the line. You're from Iowa, right?
Yes.
That's right. That's there's always the Iowa-Illinois debate. We're a couple of Illinois boys. But by your wall, it looks like there's a lot more big deer in Iowa. We're going to go with that for now.
There's definitely some good ones here.
All right. So where do you exactly live in Iowa?
I live right around Corden right now. That's where I've grown up my whole life. I originally lived on a farm with my parents and grandparents down close to the Missouri border, and then we moved up around Corden when I was about 10. So I've lived here ever since. Went to school up here, but yeah. Nice.
How old are you?
I'm 22 right now.
Man, yeah, I knew you were young. That's why I wanted to get you on, because you got some, your young age, you got some skill for sure. You've been putting down some giants. So how long have you been hunting?
Since I was 13. My dad got me into it, and that first year we just went out and sat and I shot a doe. I wasn't even looking to shoot a buck, just to shoot a deer and have fun. And then that next year I went out with my dad and my uncle. I ended up shooting I was honestly just going out to shoot the first nice buck I saw, and it happened to be a 160-inch deer for my first buck. So,
oh wow,
kind of got spoiled by it. To be honest, I didn't even know what I shot. I didn't even watch outdoor shows or have Facebook or know what a giant deer was then. And then people that came over and scored it, and then I realize now that it was a pretty nice one. But
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was how I shot my first buck. And then the next year when I would have been 14 that next year, I got into bow hunting and shot a 100-inch 8-point, if that. But I was just looking to shoot the first thing that came by, and it got my blood pumping. That's pretty much what really started my passion for the outdoors, was bow hunting. That's what I'd choose that over gun hunting any day. So
yeah, something about getting them close. Sometimes it takes a gun to be able to get it done, but
yeah.
I just, you can't miss out on that time of the year when gun season is, and now in Illinois you can take a bow, but you're like, man, do I want to have that extra 50 yards, you know what I mean? So
yeah, don't get me wrong, gun hunting is an extreme adrenaline rush too, but there's nothing like bow hunting, getting them up close. With a big mature whitetail, it's second to none, really.
I just like how you said there, even though you did shoot a 160 as your first buck, you still got a bow in your hand, and the deer got you pumped up and fired up, and, you let it rip. And even though it was a 100-inch 8, you still...
Yeah, you weren't going for a 160 with a bow.
Yeah, right.
It didn't matter. I was just, I'd never shot a deer with my bow. I was like, I'm going to shoot the first thing that comes out. It wasn't even about inches then. And honestly, for about the next 3 years, it even wasn't. I shot a handful of 130s. I shot a 135-inch 8, then shot a 145-inch 10 with a couple kickers. And that next year after that, I kind of started getting to knowing people in high school and talking to a few guys, and that's when I really started shed hunting. And I had found a couple sheds off deer I'd seen during the year, and I saw them the next year. I was like, holy cow, I mean, they can grow this much. And I started reading magazines and watching shows, and that's really when the managing kind of started. I started like being really careful and just picking up on things as time went on. And that's truly what's led up to this point.
Is your dad a big buck hunter, or is he, and your uncle, or how do they hunt?
Not really. My dad, he goes with me, but he's usually busy, really busy with farming right now. He didn't get to go out much, but I think we're going to go out late muzzleloader.
Nice.
But yeah, he just pretty much got me into the sport, and everything was self-taught. I hunted by myself for pretty much every year since these last couple of years. Been doing a little filming and everything. But
yeah, it's always fun to save those memories on film so you can look back and see the stuff that didn't happen and maybe figure out why it didn't happen, and
yeah, for sure,
and enjoy the successes. So
Have you hunted the same property for, multiple years?
yes, I have a few properties that I've hunted probably for, I'd say, 4 to 5 years, and those are the best ones. I mean, you just learn, like, your hours put on stand is what kills big deer. You just truly learn how they move naturally, and you just like literally learn what a deer, how they act in their natural environment. So,
has it been consistently the same stands that you've been successful in, or has it been kind of sporadic?
No, I'd say my most successes came from failure. I mean, honestly, like, I don't know how many times I'd go in, and which I would encourage everybody to do this. I would go in to set a stand to literally just like overlook the property with a good wind. Set it in a good spot to where you can kill the deer, but just to kind of pick up on what he's doing, coming out of his bedding area, and really seeing where most of the deer are coming from, and just try and locate that buck. And that's truly what's led up to the most success, because I'll do that, and then if I can spot that deer, I'll just take the stand down and just do a hanging hunt the next day, or whenever I can hunt again with the right wind.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed that in my area. I think that I should be doing that because I feel like I got my good stands, but every year the movement's a little bit different, so I think I should move. But we do hunt a lot of observation sets, and homie gets on me all the time because I'm too safe. I'm way too safe of a hunter, he says. So I don't get aggressive enough, but that's just kind of my style. But I like to hunt those observation stands, maybe get a shot, and then when I feel like I can really get it done, go in there for the kill. So it sounds like me and you kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. And like people say, I hunt smarter, not harder. That, to a point, I mean, you definitely have to, there's so much work that goes into being successful during the season. But yeah, like when I'm going to hunt a stand, I just think it over, like, is this truly like the best scenario for this spot? Like, I don't even want to educate this deer. I don't even want to knowing I'm in there. So if the wind's like iffy, there's been a couple times where the wind has been on the edge of an area where you could be going through. I'd hunted it a couple times and it's paid off, but most of the time I like being more safe than anything, because it seems like once you educate those mature deer once, I mean, your chances, they'll come around that area and they'll know something. They'll just be looking in that area.
Yeah. So they just go nocturnal as hell, and
Yeah,
then it's
that's
even
the
harder
worst
to kill
part.
them.
Just,
So.
yeah, makes it not possible.
Yeah, I just know from my experience, just like you said, you got maybe one, if you're lucky, two cracks at a big mature one, 5.5 plus, and after that, man, it's over.
Yeah, I've actually got a funny story on. It's actually on my biggest deer. Me and the neighbor hunted him the whole year, and saw him quite a few times during bow season. Put in probably close to 30 sits. And a lot of them were all day, just trying to kill this deer. And it came to the late season when caught up with them, and we were walking in, and the neighbor, we sat like probably 70 yards apart, and that buck actually came out onto my property and went out into his field, and I watched him shoot at the deer, and I helped him track, and he ended up missing the deer at 150 yards. Well, I went and I just pretty much relocated to where he came, and we hunted for the next 3 days straight. Didn't even see the deer until that third day. He came back. Right, he did the same exact thing, and I ended up shooting him at like 30 yards on a trail, going out to his bean field. But that just goes to show how, a deer won't come back. He didn't come back for 3 days.
Yeah, even if it's his core area and he feels
area.
comfortable, he's like, something ain't right. I just got shot at. Then people were tracking me. So even though I want to be there.
So I kind of got lucky on that deer, that drop tine I shot. So, but you just learn over time what works best, and you pick up on a lot of things from trial and error, from hunting hard. And I don't care to admit it, but I've wounded it in my early I think I was around 15 or 16. We're spoiled out here. Before 2010, it used to be really good, and I wounded 2 deer over 170 with a bow just from lack of experience, because I had one coming in and I didn't think to draw back in time, and it spooked and I hit him in the shoulder. Then another one he was out there about close to 40 yards, and I didn't think to aim low right below the heart to where he dropped down, and I hit him high. Lost that deer. So, I've learned a lot of things over the years from just messing up on deer.
Oh, yeah. We've all been there.
Yeah.
Homie hit a giant in the shoulder a couple years ago. I shot high on a giant 2 years ago. So that's just stuff that
it happens to everybody.
You just put in your back pocket. You're like, I'm not going to do that again.
Yeah. And really, that's what really makes us a better hunter. It sucks to say that because a deer's out there wounded, and you're just hoping it makes it, But that is really the stuff that makes us a better hunter. And like you said, you're only 15, 16 years old. I was a little older than that when I had my experience, and Cody even that. So you just gotta keep those at the front of your memory when it comes down to that moment again.
Yeah, and it definitely pushes you to work harder during the off season. So when you have that opportunity, you don't want to mess it up again.
Yeah,
capitalize on that.
Exactly. This year, I shot my buck, or I shot a buck that I hit in the shoulder 2 years ago, and then last year I bought a new bow literally right before the season started, and then I shot a buck and lost him, but I found him later. Wasn't in immediate recovery, and then so of course me being the person that I am this summer, all I did was shoot my bow. I shot my bow probably 4 times as much as I ever shot my bow, and just because I knew the last 2 years I had scenarios play out that didn't have an outcome in my favor, and I wanted to correct that, and I shot my bow literally every chance that I got.
Yeah, and honestly, that's what it takes. I mean, if you truly want to be successful every year, you got to put in the work. I mean, it it's a whole nother level when it comes to capitalizing on big mature deer. I mean, it's a whole different ball game, really, because there's a lot of good deer out here. I mean, if you have a good property, you can shoot a 150-inch deer every year. You're going to have that opportunity out here in Iowa. Obviously, some states that's a big deer to them, but that's also why people come here, and even to Illinois. I mean, there's giant deer over there too. So
Yep, few and far between. So stay over there in Iowa, man.
yeah,
No. So
you guys used to be better than Iowa back in the day, but
yeah, that one buck, man, you one bucked it and just blew up.
I would say you'd have a good shot at a 140 pretty much anywhere.
Yeah,
You're at,
I feel like if you hunt hard and you can bump around, I've shot 140 on public, so I mean, it can be done.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So, but you kind of went over your drop time buck, but so it'd be last season. How many inches did you put down on the ground last season?
Between the three deer, it was over 510 inches.
Yeah, yeah. So let's just kind of go over that. I mean, that's insane to me. One thing is that you just kept driving so hard to hunt. You know, you can just it really shows that you really love this. You know, and you just got just like us. I shot a giant, and I'm out there like I'll just shoot a doe now because you just want to hunt. You know, what I mean, you love it. So kind of go over each buck and maybe tell the story, and then maybe tell why you think you're successful on each one.
So I hunted that wide deer. I ended up shooting I hunted him, and I had tons of cameras over on the north end of my farm, and the deer I truly think this deer lived on. I think his core area was maybe 10 to 15 acres. I had 7 cameras all along that north end, and he was on one camera the whole season, even during the rut and everything. And I guess on one day he went through another camera, and it was at night. I mean, the deer just wouldn't move during the day, clear up until middle of November. That's when I started getting pictures of daylight. And I was hunting him. I was like, when the wind's right, maybe he'll show in daylight. But it just got to the point I was like, I honestly don't think this deer's moving in daylight. I don't think I'm going to kill him. And so I went to my uncle's farm that I'd been hunting since I was really young, and I ended up shooting that one that was 165, just a really mature deer. He was a tank. I was happy with him, and I had standing beans left on my farm, and the deer were wiping them out. So I was like, do I get the landowner's bow tag for the remainder of the bow season, or do I buy a first shotgun season tag? And I decided to get the gun tag because he really wasn't daylighting that much. I mean, once every 5 to 6 days, he'd been coming and hitting a scrape, and it was never in daylight. He was never coming to the fields during daylight. So I made the right decision by buying a first shotgun tag for landowners. And I ended up killing him. Sat there for 4 nights, and he finally came out with about 20 minutes of light left and just stood there. I mean, my heart was pounding out of my chest. He was at under 40 yards for over 5 minutes when he jumped the fence out into my field, and he was standing behind a hedge tree facing straight on, and there wasn't a good spot for a blind, so I just brushed myself because I didn't want to educate the deer because he was coming out in a wide open spot. So I just built a blind out of brush, and I just nested myself into it with the gun rest and the muzzleloader. And there was probably close to 30 deer out in the beans, and he just sat there watching him moving around, facing me straight on, and it just kept on getting kind of closer towards dark. There was maybe 15 minutes of shooting light left, and I was like, I've got to do something. This deer's not going to even move or take a step. And he didn't have a clue I was there, so I just slowly took the muzzleloader off the rest because he was right in line with the tree or behind it, and I slid over on my butt about a foot to the left, and I finally could see his front left shoulder. I was like, all right, I'm just going to drive a bullet right through his left shoulder at an angle. It should hit his heart and his lungs if it's right on the money. And I shot, and the smoke went up, and I couldn't hear anything. The deer were running out of the field, and I never heard him crashing or anything. It just went quiet. And so I wasn't sure if I hit him or not or what happened. And so I got up, and I just kind of walked. I waited for probably half an hour, just sat there, just thinking about it, if I did the right thing. And I mean, because you don't really get an opportunity like that. And I got up, and I found one speck of blood, just over this little speck of blood. And I was like, I don't even know if I hit this deer good or what. And I was kind of panicking. And I was like, well, he had to have went about like 40 yards and jumped across the fence. If he did go over back onto the neighbors, I'll just kind of walk down this fence line. If he's dead, he should be like laying down there. And I didn't go 40 yards, and he was just laying there dead. He didn't. I pretty much just center punched his lung, and it went through his heart.
Nice. Yeah, I've heard that a lot with
crazy
muzzleloaders
story.
is that they don't bleed a lot when you hit them. But I've never killed a buck with a muzzleloader before.
Yeah, even in snow, I mean, some shots you just find specks of, but then there's sometimes they really bleed good. I mean, they've come out with new sabots, those expandable, like you really get good blood trails with those Barnes bullets. I really like those. Had really good success with those over the years.
Well, how big was that deer end up going?
It's 186 gross as a typical, and I had a guy come score him. He netted 173 and 6/8 net boon.
Nice.
So
that's a giant, man.
Yeah, he's
so wide, man.
His inside spread is 27 and 1/8.
Yeah.
Insane.
It looks sick.
Yeah. Just looks like
they don't come around like that very often.
No, a lot of main beam on him.
Yeah. So yeah, his main beams were both over 28.
Wow. Yeah, if he had tine length, he'd have been just a stud.
Yeah,
you say that about every deer. I said that about my deer. I'm like, if he had tine length, he'd have been there, but he was there, you know what I mean? But
yeah, oh yeah. Yep.
And then your third buck, so what was that?
It was like a low 160s. It was just a mature deer that I had on. He was coming to a field, and I've been watching him all year. I mean, on camera and everything, and he was just a cool deer. Had a lot of character and just a bunch of sticker points coming off his bases, and I mean, I was happy to shoot him. It was a good one to get off the farm.
Man, a 160, I'd be happy to shoot any day of the week.
Yeah,
sign me up.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. So,
I'll shoot a 160s mature deer any year, but kind of getting to the point where if they're a deer that, because it's pretty common for a 160-inch deer to be a 4-year-old in Iowa, to where you want them to get to that 5-year-old range, because I mean it's not.
Just to see what they're doing.
On 30 to 40 inches in a year. I mean, one of my good friends, his dad shot a 223 with his bow, and the deer as a 3-year-old, they have all the sheds off the farm, and as a 3-year-old, this deer was 164, and they passed him, and then he blew up to 223 the next year.
Wow. Yeah,
So,
the buck I shot last year was a little over 30, 31 inches he put on. So they can
yeah,
do it, man. It's insane how much
definitely
they can
worth
blow up.
letting them go. Yeah, for
For
sure.
sure. So out of all three of those bucks, I mean, I know they were kind of on different properties and stuff, but if you could hone down just a couple, reason you think that you were successful on them, was it just past history or was it trail cams or?
Uh, I'm like getting big to the point where I'll just let the cameras do the work for the most, like a lot of the scouting. I mean, I'll still scout like with field glasses and stuff, but on scrapes and trails, just learning what they're doing, and because the cameras don't lie, they're not going to miss much, and they'll tell you when deer are daylighting, and that's honestly, I mean, that's a big reason that a lot of people are successful on big deer, because the cameras have done most of the work
Oh yeah, on my deer,
anymore.
we knew where this deer was, so we had a really good idea where he was, and we had a really good idea how he was using my property on the northwest, how he was using on the southwest. Without them cameras, I mean, it'd have been just.
Well,
I don't.
without even diving into the next level, looking at the times, looking at the dates, going into plugging it in,
Yeah.
seeing what the weather was, seeing what he's doing, Without that, we don't know any of that.
Yeah, so if you didn't have cameras, I think a lot of less people would kill big deer because they wouldn't even know they were on the farm.
For
You know
sure.
what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and as far as cameras go, I've kind of learned over even just hunting that deer, but any farm in general, like you need to have cameras on every area of the farm. Just because you don't have cameras on like this 30 acres doesn't mean there's not a giant deer. I mean, because you could have cameras on the 40 acres on one side, and there could be a deer that just lives over on that side of the farm. You're not even getting pictures of them over there. Like deer just use one location. They don't want to move.
We blast the cameras, man. We're not hunting huge pieces, and we got cameras all over it. We don't want to miss anything.
Yeah.
So that's our bread and butter, man.
Yeah.
So when you do a trail cam pull, are you pulling all your cams at once? Are you only pulling ones you have good access to? Are you pulling ones that the wind allows you to get to? What's your typical trail cam pull look like?
Yeah, if I unless I have to, I won't go in and pull cameras unless the wind's right. And with all the cards, that actually played into me killing this deer, because I noticed this buck, the farm laid north and south, or I mean, he was coming south out of that ditch. And I noticed a lot of the times he was coming to the field was on a south wind, when he could just smell the whole field. And so that actually led up to me going clear to the opposite side of the farm, because I could have shot him where I was, but my wind was blowing into the ditch where all the deer were coming from. And so I went clear to the opposite side, on the other side of the ditch he was coming up out of, and let my wind blow right past him where he was bedding, but I knew he wouldn't come up where I was sitting. So that's what got me safe on killing him. So yeah, it's definitely worth paying attention to what winds they move on.
Do you expect a 170 every pull?
No, I don't know. At the beginning of the season, there's a good chance I'm going to have a couple 170s by the time mid to late October rolls around. But anymore in velvet, I had a 190-inch deer show up right out of Hardhorn, and I got really good pictures of him. I was so pumped up, and then the deer just disappeared. I didn't get another picture of him the rest of the year.
Wow.
So, I mean, deer like that, I'm to the point where I don't get my hopes up till about obviously, if you can get a good cold front, you can hunt them early and have a good chance. But middle of October rolls around, mid to about the 20th. If the deer's still around, there's a good chance they're going to stick around, not move out of the area.
Yeah, that's what we think too. If you get them mid-October, then they're pretty much there.
Yeah, that's pretty much their home for the fall. I mean, they're going to be there at one point or another. So,
Do you find the deer that were there early, that you would lose? Do you find them coming back in the winter at all?
yeah, that's actually, I mean, the buck that I'm hunting right now, I got pictures of him, and just about the middle of September when they're riding hardhorn, and I think he's low 170s. He's got like a couple kickers off his G2, and he just now showed up the end of November. Got pictures of him in daylight, so I actually went out opening night and I saw him over on the neighbor's bean field about 3/4 of a mile away. So I'm just waiting for him to come back through. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, there's just a lot of deer that will show up and they won't return. I know I've talked to a lot of guys. They have these bucks that they'll just come back in the late season every year. That's just what they do.
Yeah, I got one that's never there until late December. Then boom, he's there, and he's 100% nocturnal, and he's unkillable. And he's got to be a 5 or 6 year old right now, and he's probably 150. But
Yeah, it's like, oh hey, the gun season's over. I'm going to show back up.
yeah,
It's crazy how smart they are, and they always know where they're going. So.
yeah, oh yeah, and I got sheds off him, so at least I get to find his sheds maybe this year. So that's what I look forward
that'd
to.
Be sick.
That's what I look forward to.
Yeah,
is just,
yeah.
he's
for
back,
sure.
so maybe find his sheds. But so it seems like on your property, I mean, you have a lot of mature deer there. So what are some tips to keep the mature deer on your property, and you're hunting and you're running trail cams? What are you doing to be able to keep those mature deer in like a 15-acre area, like you're saying?
To be honest, food. If food is everything. I mean, yeah, we do a lot of off-season work in the last couple of years. My good friend and I have done a lot of hinge cutting to where we've created a lot of thick bedding areas, and that's definitely helped. But if you don't, and even water, if you don't have the food, the deer just aren't going to stay there. I mean, that's what truly keeps them on your property and like year round, to where they don't want to venture out and leave and go 2 miles away to the next food source of a late season. There's been a couple bucks that when it got cold, I've seen them 2 or 3 miles away down the road in a neighboring, just in a bean field or a cornfield, because it got so cold they're just relying on their stomachs to make it. So
Yeah, that's what we need on our north piece.
Mm-hmm.
There's bucks there all summer. What we think is probably a 5-year-old, and he was there the rut, and then now he's just gone. There's food all around.
Yeah.
There's fields all around, but there's not a lot of food. So I think if we put the food plots in next year, make them big enough to support the deer herd, then be able to hold some late season there. Yeah, I've never heard that. A lot of people say like pressure and stuff, but food, that makes a lot of sense. They're slaves to their stomachs. So if you don't have the food, then they're going to be searching around.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, pressure. You go into an area and keep going in there, a mature buck's not going to tolerate it, and he's definitely going to leave. But food's what keeps them coming back. I mean, I know people have went in and just like farming, and they push deer out all the time, and those deer just keep coming back because of the food. So, and cover too, that keeps them there.
Yeah, a lot of hinge cutting. That's key, I think.
Yeah.
If I could ever own a piece of property, that would be one of the first steps that I would do is hinge cut some areas.
Yeah, it'll turn a farm around. I mean, you have open oak timbers and just those little trees that are in between the big trees. You start just laying those over and keeping that green growth. Those deer love it. I mean,
oh yeah, that's what the deer are keying in on right now around us is that low browse.
It'll keep more mature bucks on that farm, because you'll be lucky if you can, just on a small piece, if you can get, say, 2 to 3, I don't even know, but maybe 2 big mature bucks, not even having to be big, but mature bucks that'll want to stay around each other the whole season. They don't really like it. They like dominating their area. So
Yeah, we had that. We had a couple show up early, but then after that, the cameras were pretty much just 1 or 2 the Giant 8 and Mr. Freeze. It was pretty much the only thing that we were getting. We were getting like some flyers that come through at night, but that was about it, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially when the deer's a bully. You can have a crappy genetic bully buck that keeps big deer off the farm. I mean, those are the ones that need shot the most, honestly.
Yeah. I kind of like those weird looking, 100-inch bucks that got stuff going on all over the place.
Just kicking everyone's ass everywhere.
Yeah. So you own some land, right? Is that correct? Or you did?
I actually, and I sold it this summer. I'm going to be buying a new property here soon that I'm looking into. So yeah.
So you kind of went over it, but you were buying a property and maybe it wasn't holding the kind of deer that you wanted. You said hinge cutting and food. Would there be anything else that you think that you would add to that scenario to maybe draw some mature deer to that area?
Yeah, you can. I mean, I definitely planned on, like, if I was to keep it, to go in and do tree plantings through the CRP program, and then native grasses like the tall prairie grasses. They really like that, and just going in and planting cedars even. I mean, they love that cover. Just creating more timber on the farm. Not even timber, but just like cedar cover. That's about the best. You'll have the quickest growth out of that.
Yeah, that's like our new piece. It's all grass and cedar and creek draws. So it's got big bucks road all over it, but it's...
Yeah, I'd rather have that than, timber, unless you can get the really good stuff to hinge cut.
Yeah, we got a piece that is big open timber like that, and even by our video, homie's got some awesome video this year. They just avoid that open stuff. They don't like going in it. They look down there, see if there's any does. If you'd had a decoy that night, it'd have been over.
Yeah.
They'd have came right down there, but they just don't like.
Yeah,
they don't like that
they
open
don't really
timber.
care to bed in it. Not at all.
And then, I got 8 minutes of film of a shooter 8-point. 135, 140.
Yeah.
Literally for 8 minutes, just standing in
The same spot.
A 15 by 15 foot.
Yeah, those big deer, they don't move a lot, man. People think they move a lot. They get up out of the bed and they're just on the move, but this deer is just...
And then at the end of the segment or, the end of the clip, the only reason he moved is because
the
a bigger
160
buck,
came through. Yeah,
a giant come and bumped him off, and he kind of bumped away.
Yeah.
So, them deer aren't just up and running around. There's, like you said, CD, there's always a purpose and there's always thought into what they're doing.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. Like, you watch over a CRP field, and you see does coming, and all of a sudden you just look over, and they caught their scent from the estrus, and that's what made them stand up in the field, and that's what makes them come to the field. Or that they just noticed the doe, and they're, like, going to check it out. But if those does wouldn't have came in, most of the time they probably won't even get up.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, I think, and I was telling homie this, I think the bigger, the older the deer, I think the less cruising they do. You see like a lot of 3 and 4 year olds really cruising, but I think the older deer know where the does are. They just go there and wait for them.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like knowing where the good bar's at. You just go there and you chill until they show up, So.
I have noticed that it seems like those really, like, once the deer gets to about like 6.5 or 7.5, they do become more daylight active, and they are super smart still. But I think that 5-year-old range is the hardest point to kill a big deer. I really do.
Yeah, they're kind of in their prime there. They know their ground.
Yeah,
they're probably top of the breeding herd.
And they're moving, but they just don't move as much in daylight until they start getting really old, and that's when they don't become dumb in any way, but you do have a better chance to kill them. Even just going over pictures, those older class deer will move more.
What is the oldest deer you think you've killed?
Probably that drop tine.
Mm-hmm.
We have the set from the year before. I have a picture of him as a 5-year-old. He was just a nice 10 point that was, he had to have been from the sheds. The neighbor had the other years of sheds that he gave to me off of him, and we think he was 7.5 years old. He had to have been.
That's cool, man.
So,
You get one that old.
I'm not sure I've seen the picture of the sheds. I know I've seen the buck. Did he look like he was close to even throwing a drop?
I actually thought he was going to grow. The one side he grew the drop off of, it didn't look, because on his other side off the shed, there's a bigger, like a point. It's not even a scoreable point, but there's a nub sticking down off the beam. And it looked like he was going to grow more of a drop on that side, but he grew that 5-inch drop off the other side the next year.
Yeah.
And that's sick.
Yeah, it is. That thing had it all, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just I couldn't ask for just a true giant, really.
Yeah, for sure. So do you think he peaked at 7 then?
Yeah, his sheds from the year before, they scored right at 175.
Man, that's
And
crazy.
he grew up to 192 that next year. And I don't think he would have grew much more. His mass is incredible. The mass on the one side of the beam's over 7 inches, just it'd be the forced circumference by the drop tine.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. So let's get in. I know you want to touch on something about the buck that you were chasing this year. So you don't have to go into detail what he looks like if you don't want to, but just kind of give us, what he was, and then maybe go into how you were hunting him, and then go into how you made a mistake.
Yeah, if I could sum up, like honestly, like in one word, this bow season. I mean, I know I shot a good deer off that same piece, but it was disappointing.
Great deer. Yeah.
But the deer I was hunting was over 200 inches, and I was actually hunting another deer, and this was just a mistake. I had scouted this farm, just that piece where the 200 incher showed up. It was on less than 30 acres, and I had scouted that farm. I had the stand hung. I had the cameras in there, but I was hunting this other deer that the neighbor actually shot him a few days ago with a muzzleloader, and he was right around 174 inches, just a big 10 point. And I hunted him on November 7th, and I saw the deer, and then I never saw him sat all day sits from like the 5th till then on the 10th, I didn't have a right wind for that spot. And I was just like, well, I'll just go to this farm over here. It's a good rut spot. I'll just go sit and see what I can see. I didn't even check the cards. And I wasn't even thinking anything would happen. I mean, there might be a big one in there. And so I'm sitting there, and it's getting about 30 minutes before dark, and I saw a doe up there, and I saw a buck. I couldn't really tell what it was, and it was on the edge of this field, and I just kind of lightly grunted at him, and here he comes off that doe. I couldn't even believe it. Like, he was watching the doe, and he starts coming right to me, and as he starts getting closer, I couldn't even believe my eyes. Like, I was like, that's the biggest deer I've ever seen in my life. Like, I've talked to a guy, and I showed him pictures, and he thinks he's more around 220 inches. And I honestly couldn't believe it. The deer just kept coming, and my heart I was like shaking so bad, and I got to full draw. He comes to 35 yards, and he's just facing me, just straight on, full body. And I didn't know what to do. I was like, I can't shoot this deer in the neck. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to ruin this opportunity. I mean, I could definitely see this deer over next course of a couple weeks. So I was just waiting for him. I'm just at full draw for what seemed like a couple minutes. It was probably a lot less than that. And he finally, instead of turning straight sideways, he literally just like looks backwards and he does a full 180 and just goes right back after that doe. I couldn't even get a shot at him. And so I was like, it got dark and I was like, I just sat there. I was like in disbelief that that big of a deer was on less than 30 acres. And so I get down and I go check the cards, and on the 7th and on the 9th, that deer walked right past my stand in daylight, 20 yards. I mean, it was kind of heartbreaking, but he showed up on the 6th. I didn't even think that there was going to be another deer bigger than what I was hunting show up. I was just sitting all day sits. But yeah, I ended up seeing that deer 5 times. Then shot that one. It was my last day to hunt. Shot that 160 Thanksgiving morning. But yeah, it was definitely a lesson learned on that. I'm still trying to. I still have a bunch of cameras running in there to see if that deer will come through there, but it's pretty much a ghost town in there now because it was just a really good rut spot. But yeah, that was.
We got the same situation.
Crazy.
We knew there was a giant somewhere, but he was 100% nocturnal. We threw all our, well, I won't say the same situation because it wasn't a 200. But anyways, we threw all our marbles in one area. You know, we're both hunting this small piece of property, not even pulling cams on the other one, not even looking. And for about 8 days, there's bucks in daylight just nonstop. You know, and one in the 170s. You know, so I mean, it's just like you're like just like that. That's an awesome tip. You know, even though you're chasing a giant that you think you're not going to get anywhere else, you still need to be in the back of your mind saying, okay, I need to be checking these other cards. I need to be doing this. You know, you never know what, and that's, you know, that's why I told homie, I said, this thing is going to be rut money. And homie's like, he was doubting me hardcore, but I got lucky and it ended up being right. So, but could change next year.
With
you
that
never
one
know.
you shot?
Oh no, yeah, we were banking it all on him. We knew he was there. We had a really good idea where he was at. So me and homie were both hunting the same property, trying to kill that deer.
Yeah.
And
how big did that deer end up going?
192, Boone and Crockett.
Yeah, that's a giant.
Oh yeah.
That's super mass. That's crazy.
Super mass. 7. He had those inside points were 18 inches, 24 beams. I mean, he's a giant. The mass is what carried me, man. Where those inside kickers grew out, he grew that web, and you get like 7.5 on the second mass measurement. That's not even on the base.
Yeah,
that's helping you a lot. You know what I mean? So
yeah, that's a great deer.
Yeah, me and homie were all focused on him, and then we have a 170s in the daylight out, you know, and just where he had to cover the whole property because he ain't going north. He went through it and then came right back through. So any stand you would have set, you would have seen that deer.
Yeah.
And then we had maybe 3 other mature deer, one with a little drop tine kicker thing, one real big 8, a couple just real old mature deer that you get were probably in the 140s, but just daylight, morning, evening, midday, just nonstop. And we're focusing all down there, you know, when we should have been up there.
So, you know, we had all these deer on cam during the rut, but before the rut, we had homebody bucks, you know, there, and we picked one up early in Velvet, and he stayed around. And then, you know, we're just kind of going back and forth. We're like, okay, yeah, he's definitely 3.5, you know, but he's on the radar. And then, you know, the rut comes, and then all these other bucks that we got on trail cam
come from nowhere.
You can tell that they're 4.5 and plus.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a good spot, and it's just
we learned something just like you, man. If you got all your marbles in one spot, you might want to look at that other spot and say, I mean, it worked out in my favor this year. I'm glad I did it, but if I would have been hunting there and not seeing anything, and then I'd have pulled them cams, I'd have been like, oh man, I should have been here, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I never thought a world-class whitetail would show up. I mean, definitely the biggest deer I've ever had on camera, but you just learn over time. I mean, I'm not complaining. I know how fortunate we are to live in good areas, so we're definitely blessed down here. But yeah, you have fun and learn over time through trial and error and hunt smart. Just pick up tips from constantly trying to learn things from magazines and the famous hunters. Mark, just picking up little from here and there. Don't ever key in on one thing. Just always learn little from everybody. I mean, that's always learning.
Yep, for sure. So, man, I mean, I know you've been super successful. You live in a awesome place, but I mean, you got the ground, but you're also putting a ton of work in. You're hinge cutting, you're planting the feed plot, and you're putting a ton of time in staying, man. So you're earning them deer. I mean, a lot of people look at it and they're like, well, he lives in Iowa, or well, you know, he's got badass property, but you're making the property happen, and you're hunting, you know, all day sets, a ton of hours. So you're making it happen, man. That's why I wanted to have you on. You're a normal guy that not a lot of people know that are putting down stud deer at a young age. So, I mean, you got it going on. I'm excited to see what you do in the future, and I'll be following you on social media and seeing what you got going on.
I'd like to touch on. I actually had an accident with the tree stand going after that 200. It was kind of crazy how it happened. My buddy and I were sitting there, and this deer kept on using this corner. So we let's just take these stands down and move them over to that corner. It was like midday, and we get over there and we got the one stand up. When we're pulling the other stand up, my bow's on the ground. We hear something, and it just sounds like I can't even describe it. It was just like the biggest roar I've ever heard. And here comes a doe, and this buck another mid 170s to 180 inch typical was coming through this piece on that 30 acres. And we're just in disbelief. Like, we couldn't even believe what we were seeing. And this deer was coming close. The doe came within 50 yards of the stand. Couldn't call to him or anything. The bow was on the ground. So that was just a whole disappointment, but stuff like that's going to happen. And so we got the stand hung, and that buck just left the area chasing that doe. He was coming through that area just that day. And that 200 actually ended up going through that spot right where my other stand, where I'd moved that stand from. Yeah, I walked right by it, and I just a lack of patience. And so did that 180 actually came back too, right by that stand. And that just goes to, so that's how my injury happened. I was so frustrated. I was like, I can't win. Like, I'm freaking, so I was just like, screw it. I'm moving it back to that tree. That's the spot. I just need to put in my time, and that's what's going to kill that deer. So I got the one stand down, and I always use a harness up in the tree stand, but I didn't have a lifeline on the stand. I was climbing down, and with the stand in my one arm, I was frustrated. I was just trying to be in a hurry, and I was climbing down the climbing stick, and about 15 feet up, and one of the caps on the end of the climbing stick popped out, and my hand slipped, and I fell. And I landed right on my back, and I honestly didn't know what was happened. I couldn't breathe for like 10 seconds. It knocked the wind out of me so bad, and I just laid there. I was like, am I okay? I mean, I've heard of this happening. Like, I don't even know what to do. I was just kind of, and my shoulder just kept on hurting. I didn't know what happened. And so I could start catching my breath again. I was like, okay, I'm not like paralyzed or anything, because it freaked me out. Like, I was like,
oh yeah.
I mean, it was honestly like, it opened my eyes, because my buddy and I, we're just young and fit. We could throw stands up quick, but yeah, from now on, it definitely made me realize that I need to have lifelines and just be safe all the time, because it's not a matter of, like, you spend so much time out there. It's not a matter of it's just when it will, if you're not safe, because it's going to happen. I mean, you have ice and mud and all kinds. You're going to slip and fall if you're not careful.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. I've had some
yeah,
close calls, and
I
was just talking about homie that we got to get some kind of system next year. So we always wear a harness in the tree, and I finally got one of those slings, like
Lineman rope.
When I'm hanging stands. That's a game changer. Hanging stands is so much
Oh,
faster.
yeah.
I did 5 or 6 packing hunts on public this year, and I used that every time, and man, it's just a cakewalk compared to.
You can lean back and just both hands. You can ratchet the stand and be done instantly. Like, and it's safe.
Yeah, and they're not very expensive, man. So I was like, I don't know why hadn't had this forever. But me and homie were talking, we got to get some kind of lifeline system, especially on the stands that, we're walking in and hunting in the dark and stuff.
Or a stand you're going to hunt 8, 9, 10 times the whole year.
Yeah, because we set most of our hang-ons like over 20 feet. They're like around 20, 22 feet up at a good height where none of the deer you can get away with moving around and get in position, especially with filming and stuff. You need that. So, yeah. Lifelines are a big deal, I mean, for hang-ons, for sure.
Yeah. All right, man. Anything else you want to cover?
Have you had any luck with filming?
What's that?
Have you had any luck with filming?
Oh, I'm not super serious about it. We pretty much do it for fun at this point. It takes a lot of time, and it can cost you deer if you get. I don't know if I'll ever be to the point where I'm not going to shoot a huge deer because it's not getting on film.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm not there.
Might change my mind, but
No.
yeah, if I just honestly, it takes the fun out of it if it comes to that point. I don't know if I ever want it to get to that point. So.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't know if I've told Cody this, but I've told myself plenty of times, if it comes down to me shooting a 160, 170 or getting it on film, I don't care at what point it is.
Yeah.
I'm shooting the deer.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you seen what I did this year.
More.
Luckily I had a guy in the stand with me, and I just turned it on, focused it, and said, do your best you can when I shot my giant. So if I wouldn't have had a guy with me, nothing, no film at all. So just lucked out that he was with me, and I turned it on. We were just filming another buck, and I just flipped it over to him and said, hey, do the best you can. I'm going to focus on this moment right here,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, we appreciate you coming on. I think we got some good intel out of you. I think if we could have you on for a whole shed episode, too, because you are just crushing the sheds out there in Iowa, man.
Yeah, that's a whole nother. I'm huge into shed hunting, and that I guess I didn't even, that plays a huge part into the success too. I mean, that drop tine buck I shot, I found his sheds 40 yards away from where I ended up shooting him. I mean,
oh wow.
And that really, even with other deer, you just learn like how they travel and where they're bedding the most, and just really pick up on how that area works. So, and I do most of my scouting during shed season. Honestly, I just pay attention to all the rubs, and you can even see old scrapes. Pay attention to which side of the trees the rubs are on to see like which direction the bucks are heading.
Yeah,
and going up slopes, and you can really pick up on more than just in the season. Like pretty much during shed season. So.
Oh yeah, some places I don't touch till shed season. So, and then I just go in there and scout it and figure it out. But do you have
pretty great.
Do you want to shout out your Facebook, or do you have an Instagram or anything where people could check out your bucks and follow you?
I don't have just my profile, but I don't have like a actual profile for it.
All right, I didn't
know.
But
yeah, if you look up my name, CD Kunzie I have all my pictures of them and stuff on there.
Yeah, it's pretty badass to click through the pics. So, all right, man, we appreciate you coming on. Keep me updated on this other buck you're chasing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I still have that giant in the back of that 200. I'm actually going to try and get permission on the neighbors tomorrow. So
there you go.
We'll see.
Put in the work, man. I know you got it.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah,
anybody can
like
get it
that,
down on the ground, it's you. I know that.
That's for sure.
Yes. Yeah, sometimes it all comes together. You're just thankful when it does. So.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that was CD. Very successful hunter at a young age, putting in the work, enjoying the grind, and getting it done pretty continuously. So props to him. Can't thank him enough for coming on, and especially sharing that last little bit there with us about the safety. You know, that's something that I've stepped up my game on this year, and I think that's something that Cody and I are going to even step up our game on next year, and we'll cover that here in a couple episodes. Just as a heads up, next week's podcast will be released on Thursday as we're headed down to ATA, so we're going to be recording that in my truck on the way down there, and we're going to send it out probably Thursday evening and give you guys a pre-ATA what we think the show's going to be about. So kind of interested to see how that one's going to turn out because I'm a stickler on quality. So get out there, make some memories, have some fun, leave a legacy, and Whitetail Legacy is out.